Welcome to Steve Marriott Coaching. In this session, I want to talk to you about psychometrics. Now, at some point in your career, as you climb the pole of promotion, you will be subject to some form of psychometrics, some kind of test. Maybe it's part of a team build, maybe it's part of an interviewing process, but you'll be looking at either an online version or a paper version of a series of questions that you need to answer so that some judgment can be made about your capability or your psychometric profile, whatever that may be. So I want to talk to you about what these are, because in and of themselves, they're awesome because they can be windows on you. They can be windows on what you can do to be more effective. They can help teams. But there's a big problem with them. A lot of the time when I see people going through these things, they don't make a huge amount of difference. Now, they take up time, they can be quite expensive, so they really do need to have some kind of impact. So the disappointment when I see that they don't is quite profound for me, because I've trained and been licensed to do a lot of them, and they can be really helpful. It's just that when people go into them without the full picture, they don't get the best advantage of it. So I want to talk to you about what they're all about. The reason that they don't make a difference in many, many cases is based upon why, what, how, what if. So let me tell you that. People don't understand why. They don't understand the purpose, why they're doing it. You know, if it's there to help them work effectively as a team, that gives people a foothold in order to understand what they need to do and how they need to answer it. But a lot of people are presented with a psychometric just as an exercise that goes on in a business or as part of a process. So take some time to understand why. The second thing is they don't understand what, because they don't read the instructions. What most of us do is we have a strong bias for action. So something will be put in front of us and we don't want to get through, we don't want to read all the guff, we just want to get into it. We want to feel busy. So what they do is they go into the process without really understanding what it is they're meant to do in order to get the best results. And by best results, I don't mean right or wrong, good or bad. The best result of a psychometric is one that is closest to the real you. So it's just about best fit, not best rating. The third thing that a lot of people do is they tend to use their imagination a little bit too much. Now, imagination is a great thing, just not with psychometrics. So what imagination makes them do is it makes them overthink. And overthinking means that they begin to apply a huge amount of their personal context to the question. Now, unfortunately, you're putting more imagination into the context of the question than the people who designed it, because they're not experts in you. What they're asking for is some very, very simple and probably blunt answers without the beauty of your life context. So try not to imagine too many constructs, just answer the question as it's asked. The other thing that we do when we overthink is we begin to imagine what our team or our managers or the company who are putting us through it might want. What's their ideal perspective and how do you match up? Which leads to you probably falsifying your answers. So what you do is you tend to err on that might be more acceptable an answer. So we'll always kind of go, well, of course I'm a team player, and of course I'm never grumpy, and of course I always give great customer service. Whilst that might be, socially favourable, it's really not an accurate reflection of you. So park the imagination. And the final thing is that once you've gotten your results, you don't get support. So you don't sit with anybody to explain and work through and give you proper reflection, which means you'll get your color code or your Scrabble code or whatever is the product of, what bird you're supposed to be. And what you'll tend to do is you'll label yourself as that, which means that it applies to you universally. You just go, because I am an eagle, therefore I will do that. So you tend to operate from a label rather than exploring different areas. Now, these things are about you exploring. And what that then does is it gives you a false sense of permission that because you've got a strong extrovert or preference for extroversion, it means it gives you permission to open your mouth at every opportunity. That's really not it. Now, that said, I think psychometrics can be and are awesome when used well, when used to give lots and lots of self-reflection and as an internal focus for you to expand your repertoire and your interests. They can be amazing. So some things that you need to know about this whole process. Um, the licensed products are really, really good. It doesn't really matter whether you choose AEM Cube, Myers-Briggs, core strengths, 16PF, whatever you want to do. If it's licensed, it means that it's got a certain amount of rigor, a lot of research, and it's been thoroughly tested in order for it to achieve its license. So that's important for you to know. Equally, licensed product, in order to allow people to go out and work with other people, the practitioners need to go through rigorous training and licensing. So they will be trained so that they understand the product, they have an ability to use metaphors and convert the product into an understandable format for those people that are using it, and they will work against biases. So again, licensed product, fully supported, can be really, really good. But whichever flavor you use, they are very, very generalistic, because they can give you, Myers-Briggs will give you 16 different types, and 32PF will give you 32, and they are quite rich, but they're still generalizations. Until we create a psychometric that can have a specification of up to the world population, which is just shy of 8 billion, they're always going to be very, very generalistic. So bear that one in mind. It's just about a lot of people, or more people than else, will use this trait. So they're about traits, they're about trends. And even if you've got similar traits, they're not, those traits aren't universal. Remember, this is about preference. So you will have a preferred, but you may choose a different behavior in certain circumstances. So it doesn't mean that you do this behavior or this thing in all situations all of the time. So don't try and get into that black and white. The other thing is that you get out what you put in. If you're going to dither, if you're not going to be very clear in your preferences, then you're going to get an unclear outcome. And equally, if you're going to use your imagination and falsify it and put sort of conditions into it, you're not going to get a clear reading. So it's kind of like a computer program. Garbage in equals garbage out. So be clear, be concise, be honest, then you'll get a great result. The thing for me, they're only useful if you're going to take action, and they're only as effective and affective as the amount of action that you will take. If all your intention is to get your report and just file it and stick it on a shelf, or stick a little sign on your desk that, this is what I am, therefore don't talk to me on a Monday, then they're going to be limited in their ability to help you or help those people around you. So always think about the action that you're going to take. And remember, they are simply expressions of preference. Just because you prefer tea doesn't mean you're incapable of drinking coffee. You might not like it, but you can still drink it. So they're just preference. They're not labels, and they don't stick you in a box. Time and time again, I see these psychometrics being delivered to people, and people become really quite tribal. So in Myers-Briggs, the E preference people will get on one side of the room and they'll think about all the things that the I people are bad at, and you get a bit of conflict and a bit of a war. It's nothing to do with that. If you find yourself becoming entrenched and tattooed and giving yourself permission to opt in and opt out of certain things, then it's working against you. So how do you get the very best out of whatever it is that you do? There's 3 phases to any psychometric. So let's talk about the before, the during, and the after. What can you do before? Well, the best thing to do is choose your flavour. Now, from your purpose, why are you doing it? If you know clearly why you're doing it, then you will have some indication as to who the best producer or what the best product will be. And my advice is always go with a licensed product, not some pop psychology that you found in Cosmopolitan, and certainly not some click vote that you find on Facebook or LinkedIn. Go with a licensed product that will give you licensed material and the support that goes with it. Secondly, make time. Psychometrics are better given focus. If all you're going to do is try and fill out the form in between meetings, or as you're rushing home, or while you're preparing tea, you're not going to give it the thought, and you're not going to give it the focus that will give you the best results. And the third thing to do before you do it is read the instructions. I know you're going to want to wade in and start doing whatever it is it wants you to do, because there's nice diagrams and there's loads of interesting questions. But in order to be licensed, and let's be honest, there is no benefit in you getting a false read. So the provider will give you lots and lots and lots of instructions as to how you can get the best out of it. Just like an exam, take the time to read what they're asking you to do before you pick up a pen or start clicking on a keyboard. So now we're into it. So during it, the best advice I can give you is be authentic and be honest. Limit your imagination and be as close to the real you as possible. You're not going to do yourself any favors by creating some kind of fabricated version of yourself. So just get in there and work with what you are. And in order to do that, the best advice I can give you is don't overthink the questions. If you find that you're mulling on the questions for more than 20 seconds, move on. Either give the first answer that comes into your mind or move on, because what's going to happen is, again, your imagination will get involved and you'll go, yeah, but with that person I'll do this and with that person I'll do that. 9 times out of 10, and in all of my experience, the first answer that comes into your psychology is probably the most authentic and it's probably the most useful. So go with it. If not, as I say, move on. You can always come back to that question later on. So you're going to send it off, it'll get graded, it'll get assessed, whatever it is. So afterwards, you will be given some kind of report or you'll get some kind of sheet that comes into it. Very easy for you to start wading into the attractive colours and the graphs and everything that comes into it. Slow down. Like before, read the guff. Read what comes into it, because again, if it's licensed, they're going to be talking to you about how you will get the best out of the information it's now providing. So slow down, read things before you get into it. Secondly, get support. Licensed products will offer you a coach, a mentor, or some form of support, a conversation with someone who understands the deeper implications of what's going on. Generally, it will be offered free. It will be part of the package. So take it, make time, take it. It's an expert. Why wouldn't you? Or alternatively, you work with someone in your business, work with your boss, work with a friend and help them, because they will give you an alternative perspective. Because one of the things that's going to happen is you're going to read things that you'll agree with and you'll stroke yourself and you'll think you're really, really good. And there'll be things that are probably going to jar with you. So instead of rejecting them outright, as you would if you were on your own, have someone else who can give you the context of saying, yeah, I do see that in you. I have experienced that with you, because it will give you a more rounded picture. Once you've read it, once you've taken some time, it's going to need to sink in. So do some proper reflection. Now, I'll take you to one of my other videos about, are you a ruminator or a reflector? Do reflection. Think deeply on it. Think about why that might be true. Think about what that means to you. Think about why you, or where you want to go with that, rather than agreeing with it or disagreeing with it, because you'll just sit there and go, that's like me, so I'm going to go and do more of it, and that's not like me, so I'm not going to do it, therefore it's irrelevant. Really reflect on it and say to yourself, so in order for me to move out of my preference, see, preference is just where you get your energy. It's just where you feel good, where things feel easy. And if you just stuck with that, you'd be really boring. This is about you going into uncharted territory. Now, some things are going to be harder than anything else, or going to be harder than what's your preference. That's why you prefer it, because it's easier and you like it. So working out of preference by definition is going to present a degree of challenge. Now, the further out of preference, the greater the degree of challenge and the more help you might need. But there will be an outer ring where you can just kind of step in and see what it feels like. And that's what reflection's all about. And the final thing for you to get the very best out of it is, don't close it up, stick it on a shelf to collect dust. Create some actions and take those actions. Use a mentor, use whatever's there to help you, for you to begin to expand your portfolio. Remember, preference is where you can feel good. Preference is where you can be really at your best, but it will not give you flexibility. It will not give you growth, and it will not give you the ability to see different perspectives. It's about getting out there. So be intentional. Write down what you want to do and make sure that either through your learning and development department or your HR department or your boss, you get the support to put you into places where you get the opportunity to work safely outside of your preference. And again, do the reflection. Done well, psychometrics can be one of the best things that you can do with your career. Done badly, they're just going to be a waste of time. All I'd say is you choose.